Hello. The only thing currently in my refrigerator is vodka and Trader Joe's chicken dumplings, so don't fucking judge me. Welcome to By Book Boy. My name is Logan. I'm a chaotic bisexual. I read books. This week I finally read the book On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I've been told to read this book since I started a YouTube channel about queer representation in books. So I finally fucking got around to it after a year. And let me tell you what, I am in awe. And to be perfectly honest, I'm still processing this book because there's like a lot in 240 pages that's like laid upon you. And it's very poetically written and beautifully written with a lot of extended metaphors. And I think it's the kind of thing you need to sit with for a while. This is meant to be talked about in a group and discussed. And I read it alone. So in the span of a day. So rather than doing like an academic review, not that anything I have ever done could ever be accused of being academic, I'm gonna more do like a highlights reel of like things that are brought up in this that I am still processing and enjoyed. And I'm gonna just leave them out there for y'all to discuss in the comments. This is definitely gonna be one that I think, talk about in the comments in the video. Thusly, I guess spoilers, but I don't think this is the kind of book that you can really spoil. I think it's more of like it's more a slice of life type of thing. It's not really like a plot twisty type of book. The narrator of this book is the child of a Vietnamese immigrant. His mother and grandmother immigrated here from Vietnam when he was 6 after the war. And he's writing this book as a letter to his mother who is unable to read. Basically just processing things. He's really just poetically processing different moments in his life, and it's very beautiful and very poetic. A major ongoing theme of this is the tragic relationship between the author and his mother, who very much, because his family is like, the history of his family is that his grandmother was a sex worker to survive Vietnam and thusly got pregnant with his mother. And then they moved here when they were like, when he was really young. His grandmother's now developing schizophrenia. And his mother is working in a nail salon and trying to give her son a better life than she had, basically. She's a single mother. His dad was fucking abusive, but we really don't know that much about him. And thusly, this creates a very interesting atmosphere in that his mother both protects him fiercely and like definitely loves him. Like, he is definitely her pride and joy, and like does everything she can to like romanticize the poverty that they live in, but at the same time is incredibly fucking hard on him, like to the point of like, I would say she's physically abusive. She hits him all the time. She can be very demeaning. It's interesting because it like there's the dichotomy of both in things. For instance, when he comes out as gay, she says, well, of course I want you around. Like, why would I want you to leave? You're the only fucking thing I have. But then she's also like, when did this start? When did you realize that my son was not normal? I gave birth to a normal boy. And you're like, oh, fuck. She also says, like, you can't be gay. You're already Vietnamese. You can't do both. You can't have both afflictions, which is interesting because that really like goes into the intersectionality of oppression, and stuff is very much in this book. But I really think the author's relationship with his mother and grandmother can very much be described in this quote on page 18 about his name, which his name is Little Dog. He was given another name, but he was nicknamed Little Dog, and Little Dog is the only name we know him by in the book. Anyway, I'm gonna read to you. I haven't have had many names. Little Dog was what Long called me. What made a woman who named herself and her daughter, Lon is his grandmother, what made a woman who named herself and her daughter after flowers call her grandson a dog? A woman who watches out for her own, that's who. As you know, in the village where Lon grew up, a child, often the smallest or weakest of the flock, as I was, is named after the most despicable things. demon, ghost, pig, monkey born, buffalo head, bastard, little dog being the more tender one, because evil spirits roaming the land for healthy, beautiful children would hear the name of something hideous and ghastly being called in for supper and pass over the house, sparing the child. To love something, then, is to name it after something so worthless it might be left untouched and alive. A name as thin as air can also be a shield, a little dog shield. I think the relationship of keeping something tied down and not elevating it too far because you love it and want to protect it, therefore you do not want to make it vulnerable, really, really just describes the type of love in both their relationship and his romantic relationships that is explored in this book. There's an extended metaphor of buffaloes running off of a buffalo jump, which, I assume everybody knows what a buffalo jump is, but I guess if people don't know what a buffalo jump is, in like Wyoming and North Dakota and then Montana, where I'm from, a buffalo jump is a cliff that the Native American tribes used to drive herds of buffalo off of in hunting, because Native Americans used buffalo for everything from housing and shelter to food to clothes. But thusly, when buffalo run in a herd, if one buffalo goes somewhere, the whole fucking herd goes there. So they would just get the head buffalo. It's just this buffalo sitting on a fucking throne. But they'd get the head buffalo to run off of the cliff. And thusly, the whole fucking herd would follow him off a cliff. And this book really compares family to a buffalo herd running off of a buffalo jump, which I think is a really accurate depiction of family, because the buffalo are aware that they're running, but they're still running because that's where the herd is going. They're aware that the cliff is there, but they're still running off because that's where the herd is going. There's no way that the buffalo don't know they're jumping to their deaths, but they're still doing it because the herd is going there. And I really think that's what family is. I don't know how to exactly to process that or to word it, but basically, at least in my family, there are a lot of our lives have followed the same patterns. There's patterns of many toxic behaviors that are repeated over and over again in my family, I've noticed, and in families in general. And I don't know about other families. I can't speak for other families, but in mine, I most of the toxic behaviors that I've repeated, that my family does, I'm aware of the fact that they exist and aware of the fact that they are there, but I find myself doing them anyway, and I don't know why. There's even like many toxic like family dynamics that I and other people, I'm sure, know exist and are aware exist, but we continue to play into these toxic family dynamics because of loyalty or because of some weird, I don't even know, some sort of weird inherent biological need. And I don't know how to process that, but that's what this book is about, is processing that. And there's a whole other level added to that I, as, a white cis male, don't understand, because this book is about an Asian immigrant family. Like, there's a whole nother layer of oppression and just systematic societal abuse that plays into these family dynamics that I, as a white person, can never understand. And I really think it's very beautifully described in that metaphor, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the first paragraph is, "Let me begin again. Dear Ma, I'm writing to reach you even if each word I put down is one word further from where you are. I'm writing to go back to the time at the rest stop in Virginia when you stared, horror-struck, at the taxidermy buck hung over a soda machine by the restrooms, its antlers shadowing your face. In the car, you kept shaking your head. I don't understand why they would do that. Can't they see it's a corpse? A corpse should go away and not get stuck forever like that. I think now of that buck, how you stared into its black glass eyes and saw your reflection, your whole body, warped in that lifeless mirror, and how it wasn't the grotesque mounting of a decapitated animal that shook you, but the taxidermy embodied a death that won't finish, a death that keeps dying as we walk past it to relieve ourselves. I'm writing because they told me never to start a sentence with because, but I wasn't trying to make a sentence, I was trying to break free, because freedom, I am told, is nothing but the distance between a hunter and its prey. I think that, again, is another quote that really sums up family and life in general, and just what it is to be openly out and LGBTQ plus in society, but also even further just to be a human being in society, especially today. I don't know how to extrapolate further on that because I think we can project a lot of things onto that statement. Tell me what it means to you in the comments below. Another quote that like really describes this is on page 14. It's like, he says, "You are a mother, Ma, but you are also a monster. But so am I, which is why I can't turn away from you, which is why I have taken God's loneliest creature and put you inside it." And that's such another, it's such an interesting, I don't know how to process that, and I don't know how to process the way that I personally empathize with that, especially not on the internet. But I think that's a relationship that all children can feel towards their parents, and all parents can feel towards their children. I don't know, because at the end, parents are human. Parents are not these paragons of virtue or these gods that we as children want to put them on. They're human and they make mistakes. And a big portion of the mistakes they make are made trying to ensure that we don't make the same mistakes that they made. And it's such an interesting cycle of repeating things and running off a cliff with the rest of the herd. It's just interesting. I don't know. Let's talk about Trevor. Trevor's interesting. Trevor is a boy that a little dog meets on a farm that he's working on over the summer when I think he's 17, if I remember right. They're like 16 or 17. And they fall in love. They fall in love because they have a relationship that spans 6 years, until little dog goes off to college. And it's interesting because they have a lot of firsts and they very much are like, oh God, the way to describe it. Where is the thing? I can't find it, so I'm gonna paraphrase like really badly. If one of you like actually knows this, like find it and sound off in the comments below. But basically, that love is opening yourself up to be fucked up, knowing that you're going to get fucked up and you're going to be messed up, but enjoying the release that is knowing you're about to get screwed up. Like, that is such a tragic but true exploration of a lot of queer loves. And the interesting thing about this, the thing that I really enjoyed about this that I didn't enjoy about Call Me By Your Name, is Call Me By Your Name very much romanticizes that toxic relationship and like puts it on a pedestal, whereas from the beginning, from the first, like the very first moment they have sex, little dog knows that Trevor is honestly pretty fucking misogynistic, and really not a great dude, and very, very full of internalized homophobia, so much in that like Trevor refuses to bottom because he doesn't want to be the girl. He doesn't want to be a girl, he wants to be a man, which is like, God, I get a life. Ugh. But he knows that it's toxic and he's going into it anyway. He very much acknowledges that the relationship is toxic and the relationship is unhealthy, to the point of like all the drugs present in their relationship and all the different things. Little dog knows that this is a destructive way to explore what love is like, but he's going for it anyway because he wants to feel something, and that is something that I especially have done in my life, and that I know a lot of I want to say LGBTQ plus people, we do go to those lengths oftentimes in entering into relationships that we know are very toxic because we want to feel something. We are so rarely allowed to openly feel things in public. Now less, because like same-sex marriage is becoming legalized and like it's becoming less stigmatized, but for a very long time, we were very rarely allowed moments of pleasure like this and moments to experience our true emotions and explore those things. But even without that, I think it's just a very human thing to know that something is a bad idea from the onset, but almost want to see if you can survive it, just to see what it feels like to be on the other side of it. I don't know. On 225, there's a lot of fucking death in this book, and one of the major characters dies. Not gonna tell you who because I don't want to spoil it, but excuse me. Little Dog is back in Vietnam and finds himself at the funeral. And he describes a tradition that I didn't know was a tradition, but apparently it's a Vietnamese tradition that in Saigon, during like the mourning process, they will have drag queens performing as a way to attempt to help the community heal and bring joy. I think is what I got from it. I didn't do any research into this because I literally started filming this video as soon as I finished the book. I think this quote really encompasses a lot of what drag does for the queer community in general. As a person who did drag for a long time and I still very much enjoy drag culture and everything. When someone dies in the middle of the night, they get trapped in a municipal limbo where the corpse remains inside its death. As a response, a grassroots movement was formed as a communal salve. Neighbors, having learned of a sudden death, would, in under an hour, pool money and hire a troupe of drag performers for what was called delaying sadness. In Saigon, the sound of music and children playing this late in the night is a sign of death, or rather a sign of community attempting to heal. It is through the drag performers' explosive outfits and gestures, their overdrawn faces and voices, and their tabooed trespass of gender, that this relief, through extravagant spectacle, is manifest. As much as they are useful, paid, and empowered as a vital service in a society where to be queer is still a sin, the drag queens are, for as long as the dead lie in the open, an othered performance. Their presumed reliable fraudulence is what makes their presence to the mourners necessary, because grief at its worst is unreal, and it calls for a surreal response. The drag queens in this way are unicorns. Unicorns stamping in a graveyard. And I think, sorry, I'm like fucking tearing up right now. I think that is no matter whether we are at a funeral or in a gay club, the otheredness and sort of exaggeratedness of drag queens has always been a way, even from their onset in both the ball scene as a way for transgender people to exist as themselves, or in bars as a way for impoverished queer folk to see performances of their favorite divas without the actual diva being there. Therefore, it's through, a female impersonator impersonating the diva. It's a way of processing grief, of necessarily putting something false out there to create a better truth. Even through like the John Waters movies and the very political undertones in the John Waters movies that are only made possible through the outlandish performance of people like Divine. I've never been to Saigon, so I do not know. I don't know if that's an accurate interpretation of that tradition, but I that's my experience with drag, and I think that is one way to explore what's going on there. Either way, though, I've never really heard drag described in that way before, but it's the most accurate description of the purpose that drag serves in our community, even today, I think. Again, sound off in the comments below if I have completely butchered the purpose for a very important Vietnamese mourning tradition. please tell me and I will apologize. But I think that's a way to extend it further. In that what it does in the grief community, in the grieving process, is really what drag does in all venues. There are so many other things in this book that I could really discuss. But again, I'm having trouble. I'm really trying to wrap my brain around them, so I'm more just spitballing this at you. I think I'm going to close by saying that everyone needs to read this book. Everyone needs to read this book if you haven't already. Please comment your favorite things about this. I'm so glad that I read this book. Huge thank you to my friend and neighbor Sophie, who recommended this to me and finally convinced me to read it. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for sticking around and helping out. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can get my videos every single week. This has been a very calm and still emotionally processing version of the Bi Book Boy. And I'm saying bye.